Have you ever found yourself standing in the kitchen at 10 p.m., still in your work clothes, mindlessly eating spoonfuls of ice cream straight from the container? Or maybe you've hidden candy wrappers at the bottom of the trash so nobody would know what you ate. Or sworn off sugar on Monday only to find yourself in the drive-thru by Wednesday ordering a milkshake because it's been a hard day. That was me for years. And if you're nodding right now, if you've ever felt powerless around sugar, like it has more control over you than you have over it, then this episode is probably going to change everything for you. Because today we're diving deep into why sugar feels so impossible to quit. And not only that, we're looking at the science behind why willpower never works and the exact system that I use to break free from sugar addiction once and for all. No more failed attempts, no more shame spirals, no more starting over every Monday, just freedom. Real and lasting freedom. Welcome to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast brought to you by Thinlicious. I'm your host, Ruth Sukup, and here we'll talk about everything from the science of weight loss to practical tips for making your health a priority in the midst of a busy life. It's a little bit nerdy, a little bit funny, and a little bit revolutionary. So buckle up, friend, because it's about to get real. Hey there, and welcome back to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast. Once again, my name is Ruth Sukup, and I'm the founder of Thinlicious and the creator of the Thin Adapted System, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of 7 books. And if this is your first time listening, here's what you should know about me. I am a 47-year-old woman who struggled with my weight and my health for 10 long years, failing at diet after diet after diet until I finally decided to take a radically different approach. Instead of starting yet another diet, I started researching, and I quickly learned that almost everything that we have been told about health and weight loss, about what makes us lose weight and what makes us fat, is totally wrong. And one of the biggest culprits, sugar. And let me tell you, when it comes to sugar addiction, I have been there. I used to think I was eating healthy, low-fat yogurt, granola bars, fruit smoothies, but I was actually feeding a monster. I was riding that blood sugar roller coaster all day long, constantly craving, constantly crashing. And for years, I couldn't figure out why I felt so tired, so bloated, so foggy, and so out of control. But once I learned the science behind sugar addiction and how to actually heal my body from the inside out, everything changed. I lost 49 pounds, I got my energy back, and completely transformed my relationship with food. And today, I want to help you start that same journey if you haven't started already. Because here's the thing, breaking free from sugar addiction isn't just about losing weight, although that's definitely a nice benefit. It's really about taking back control of your life. It's about taking back control of your energy and your health. It's about freedom from the constant cravings that keep you chained to the pantry. And it's about finally feeling like yourself again. So today we're going to take a deep dive into what sugar addiction really is, why it's so hard to break, and most importantly, exactly how to break free once and for all. Because let's be honest, sugar is everywhere. It's in your breakfast bars, in your salad dressing, in your healthy yogurt, and every time you eat it, it lights up the pleasure centers in your brain like a slot machine. Then a few hours later, crash city. So what do? You reach for more. And that's not weakness. That's not a lack of willpower. That's biology. If you crave something sweet after every meal, if you feel tired or cranky or anxious when you try to cut back on sugar, if you secretly binge or hide treats from your family, if you feel guilty and stuck, you're not alone. You are trapped in a cycle, one that has been biologically designed to keep you hooked. And can we talk for a minute about just how frustrating it is to know that something is not good for you, to really actually want to stop eating it, but to feel completely powerless to actually make that happen? I remember telling myself a million times, today is the day. No sugar. I'm done with sugar. And then by 3 p.m., I would be so tired and foggy that I'd convince myself that one little treat's not going to hurt, right? One little bite. And then one would become 2. And before I knew it, I was back on the sugar train, feeling guilty and wondering what was wrong with me. And the reality was that there was nothing wrong with me. The problem was that I didn't understand what I was up against. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your body when you eat sugar, because once you understand the science, you'll start to realize why willpower alone has never been enough. And more importantly, what you need to do instead. I always say this: knowledge is power. And when you really start to dig in and understand what's happening in your body, it makes it so much easier to see the triggers and to understand like how to stop it and how to stop it in its tracks. So let's talk about the science of sugar addiction. First things first, sugar addiction is real, right? This is not just about lacking discipline or needing to try harder. There is legitimate science behind why sugar feels impossible to quit. When you eat sugar, your brain releases dopamine, the same feel-good chemical that is triggered by things like cocaine. In fact, studies have shown that sugar can be up to 8 times more addictive than cocaine. That's not an exaggeration, that's science. And that's crazy, right? Like, think about that. This is what we're feeding our kids, something that's 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Dr. Nicole Avena at Mount Sinai has done a ton of research on this topic, and her studies found that rats given sugar exhibit all the hallmarks of addiction: binging, withdrawal, craving, even relapse when sugar is reintroduced after a period of abstaining. And it's not just about the brain. The sugar creates this vicious cycle in your entire body. You eat something sweet and your blood sugar spikes, your pancreas pumps out insulin to bring those levels down. The insulin works too well, and then your blood sugar crashes, and then you're tired and you're cranky and you're craving more sugar to bring your levels back up. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And over time, what happens is that your body becomes insulin resistant. That means it needs more and more insulin to do the same job. And since insulin is your fat storage hormone, you're basically telling your body to store more fat every single time this cycle happens. And not only that, but your body stops burning fat efficiently because it's relying on that constant stream of sugar for fuel. It's like trying to start a fire when somebody's constantly spraying it with water, right? It's just not going to work. And so let's talk about what's happening in your gut too, because this is all related and it's all important. But sugar is what's feeding all of the wrong bacteria in your gut microbiome. Those bad bacteria then start to send signals to your brain, demanding more sugar, creating even more cravings. And it's like you've got this little sugar monster living in your gut, constantly whispering, "Feed me." Remember that, like, what was that, Little Shop of Horrors? "Feed me, Seymour, feed more." That's what's happening in your body. And if that's not enough, sugar also is causing inflammation throughout your body. And the inflammation is disrupting all of your hormones: your cortisol, your ghrelin, your leptin, the very same hormones that are regulating hunger and fullness and stress. So your hunger cues go completely haywire, making it pretty much impossible to tell when you're actually hungry versus when you're just craving a fix. And I know that all sounds pretty unfair, right? But here's where it gets really unfair. Your brain starts to build up a tolerance to sugar, just like it would with any other addictive substance. And that means that you need more and more and more to get the same high. So that one cookie that used to satisfy you now needs to be 3 or 4 cookies to give you that same feeling. And I will tell you, this is why any diet that includes sugar or tells you to just eat sugar in moderation is setting you up to fail. Because for most of us, especially women over 40 whose hormones are already kind of a mess, moderation just does not work. Your brain and body are literally wired to keep you coming back for more. And the really sick part about this is that the food industry knows this. They are doing it on purpose. They have deliberately engineered foods to hit what they call the bliss point, that perfect combination of sugar and salt and fat that just keeps you coming back for more. So we're not just fighting our biology, we're fighting billion-dollar companies that are profiting from keeping us addicted. But here's what gives me hope and what should give you hope too. Once you understand what you're up against, you can start to develop a strategy that actually works. You can break free from this cycle and it doesn't have to feel like torture. Because the solution, I promise you, is not about having more willpower. It's not about just being able to like have a little bit and be strong enough to withstand it, right? It's about working with your biology, not against it. And so that's exactly what I want to talk about right now. The solution, right? Breaking free for good. Because when I realized I was addicted to sugar, I honestly tried every approach under the sun. I tried everything in moderation. I tried switching to natural sugars. I tried the I'll just have a small piece approach. And guess what? None of it worked. What finally worked was a complete paradigm shift in how I approach sugar. And now it's what I've used to help thousands of other women break free as well. So here's a strategy broken down into 3 clear steps. Step 1 is the clean break. You got to go cold turkey. I know that's probably scary, right? It's scary anytime you think about that. Any addiction is scary when you think about cutting it out. If you're addicted to alcohol, it's terrifying to think about, like, what does life look like without drinking? If you're addicted to drugs, it's terrifying to think about what does that look like? But the first thing you have to understand is that you can't negotiate with an addiction. You need a clean break, at least initially, like total cold turkey. And I know that that tends to fly in the face of everything everybody always says about moderation and balance. But here's what the science actually shows. A 2018 study in the journal Frontiers in Psychiatry found that sugar activates the same brain regions and neurochemical pathways as drugs like cocaine and heroin. And you wouldn't tell somebody with a cocaine problem to practice moderation, right? You wouldn't tell somebody that was dealing with a drug addiction to say, well, just have a little bit of drugs, right? Just it's a little bit is probably fine, because it's not. You know that. We all know that. We've watched it happen with addiction in this country. And another study that was published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that cutting sugary foods out completely, not gradually, was actually the most effective approach for breaking the addiction cycle. Why? Because every time you eat just a little bit of sugar, you're reactivating those neural pathways and keeping the addiction alive. I mean, think of it like this. If you were trying to quit smoking, no doctor would say just have 1 cigarette a day, right? They would tell you to stop completely. Sugar works the same way. When you go cold turkey, something amazing happens within just 48 to 72 hours. Your taste buds actually start to regenerate. Your insulin levels begin to normalize. And more importantly, those cravings begin to subside rather than being constantly triggered. And this is exactly what we do in our 10-day sugar detox. 10 days might not sound like a lot, but research from Yale University shows it's actually the optimal window for rewiring your brain's reward pathway and breaking the cycle of dependence. It's enough time to reset your taste buds, to start healing your gut, and to begin breaking those powerful addiction pathways in your brain. The clean break approach is the foundation of phase 1 in our thin adapted system. In TAS, we call this the acclimate phase, where your body starts to transition from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner, right? You're flipping the switch on your metabolism. And this metabolic shift is so critical, not just for weight loss, but for breaking the physiological dependency on sugar that has kept you stuck in the addiction cycle. And now you're probably thinking, if you're addicted to sugar right now, I know what you're thinking, right? 10 days without sugar, I'll never make it. But here's the thing, you don't actually have to white knuckle it through those 10 days. There is a strategic way to make it not just bearable, but actually enjoyable. And so that brings us to step 2, which is to nourish, not starve your body, right? To feed your body what it really needs. Because I think that the biggest mistake people make when they're trying to quit sugar is that they're doing it from a diet perspective, right? They focus on what they're taking away without adding anything back in. And so you might, at the same time you're trying to cut sugar, you're also trying to cut calories, and you're trying to cut fat, and you're trying to cut all the things. And all this is going to do is just leave you hungry and unsatisfied and primed to fail. And honestly, it's the reason that most sugar detoxes and diets crash and burn within days. Because what your body actually needs during this transition is abundant nourishment, but the right kind. And I will say, this is where our program really shines, because we have developed a precise nutrition framework that helps your body transition from that sugar burning to fat burning phase while eliminating all the cravings and hunger. And the science here is really fascinating. A 2020 study in the journal Nutrition showed that a high protein, higher fat diet reduced ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, by up to 50% compared to a standard low-fat diet. Another study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people eating a nutrient-dense, lower-carb diet experience 71% fewer cravings than those on a calorie-restricted, low-fat diet. And that's why in phase 1 of our program, we focus very heavily on protein and healthy fats. In fact, even more on healthy fat than protein. Your macronutrient ratio shifts dramatically. We recommend that 70 to 80% of your calories are coming from healthy fat, and then about 20 to 25% coming from protein. And that might sound counterintuitive if you have been brainwashed by diet culture, right? And you're like stuck in the 80s and 90s paradigm where fat is bad. But I'm telling you, those macronutrients, getting tons of fat during this period, helps you stay full and helps you stay satisfied, and it helps to stabilize your blood sugar and also starts to give your body the building blocks that it needs to heal from the inside out. So, for example, instead of starting your day with like a high carb breakfast, right, that sets you up for cravings, you're having a bowl of cereal and a glass of orange juice, right? What do we always see? Like when somebody shows a picture of a healthy breakfast, I see this all the time because I deal with a lot of stock photos in my business. And whenever I ask for a stock photo with a healthy breakfast, it's like a glass of orange juice, a bowl of cereal, and a bowl of fruit, right? Like, what is that? It's all sugar. And so that is all that's doing is just setting you up to crash and burn. So instead of something like that, you would want to start your day with something high protein, eggs cooked in butter, right? Lots of healthy fat, some avocado, maybe some sauteed greens, maybe some sausage. And that is going to keep your blood sugar stable all morning, give you sustained energy, and actually reduce those sugar cravings rather than feed into them. Then instead of a mid-afternoon granola bar, you're eating a handful of macadamia nuts or some cheese or some full-fat Greek yogurt, right? Those are the options that are going to provide nutrition without the insulin spike that keeps you locked in the sugar spike cycle. And, in our program, we also focus heavily on healing foods that are going to repair the damage that sugar has done to your gut and metabolism. So these include things like bone broth. I love starting my day with a cup of bone broth, and I add collagen to it for extra protein. I add butter and heavy cream for extra healthy fats in there, right? And I just drink it, and it's so good and it's so delicious. I add turmeric and ginger and parsley and salt and pepper, and it just tastes delicious. And it is so healing and filling, but also just like healing. It's healing your gut lining, and it's giving you all the things you need. Other things include fermented foods, right? Getting omega-3 rich proteins. And these are all foods that are going to be super healing for your body. But really what it comes down to is that it's not about deprivation. It's about abundance. You get to eat delicious, satisfying meals that are leaving you energized instead of sluggish. And when you're eating that way, you never have to count calories. You never have to worry about how much you're eating. I eat tons of calories. I don't count my calories, so I don't actually know how many calories I'm eating in a day, but I would guess it's in the range of 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day, right? Like, and I've maintained my weight loss for 4 years eating this way. And this is why this approach works when traditional diets fail. You're not deprived. And I can't even tell you how many women in our program say things like, I cannot believe how much food I am eating and still losing weight. I can't believe I get to eat this way and still lose weight. I'm not even thinking about sugar anymore because I'm so satisfied with my meals. And that is the power of working with your biology instead of working against it. And it's really why our program is so effective at breaking the sugar addiction while keeping you fully nourished and satisfied. But there's another step that you'll want to take, right? That's step 3, is to actually rewire your brain, because there's neuroscience that comes into play. Because as you start to follow steps 1 and 2, something really remarkable starts to happen. Your brain literally begins to rewire itself. And this isn't just a nice metaphor, it's actual neuroscience. When you eat sugar, your brain's reward pathways start to light up, right? They're releasing dopamine, they're creating what neuroscientists call a long-term potentation and in those neural circuits. And so basically that means that your brain becomes hardwired to seek out more sugar. But the amazing thing about your brain is its ability to form new connections and to get rid of old ones, right? It's called neuroplasticity. And so your brain can change. And a really cool study in the 2019 study in the journal Frontiers in Neuroscience showed that when participants eliminated sugar for just 14 days, their brains actually formed new synaptic connections in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision making and impulse control. And at the same time, all of those addiction pathways began to weaken, right? Your addiction can be cured, your addiction can be fixed. And I will say too that this is why the mindset component of any program, but within TAS, like we really heavily focus on mindset. And it's why this mindset component is so critical. It's not enough to just change what you eat. You have to change how you think about food and how you think about stress and how you think about comfort and how you think about reward. And that's why we go there, right? We go there into all of the mindset stuff because it really is just, it's so far beyond just saying no to sugar. And what we really do is we try to use evidence-based techniques that are drawn from cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as acceptance and commitment therapy, and even mindfulness-based stress reduction, all that are tailored specifically for breaking food addiction. Because for many of us, sugar isn't just a food, right? It's your comfort when you're stressed. It's your celebration when you're happy, your companion when you're lonely. It's that thing that you turn to when you're sad or you're anxious or you're bored or you're just plain tired. And so breaking free really means finding new ways to meet those emotional needs. The emotional eating is a real thing, right? And so it's not just what's happening physiologically, it's what's happening emotionally as well. And it's really important to go through that process to start to identify what are your specific sugar triggers and start to develop personalized strategies for each one. So for example, if you always reach for something sweet when you're stressed, then you want to find a way to find something else to do when you're stressed, right? To find a stress reduction protocol that actually works better than just sugar. And when you can start to, implement deep breathing or redirect, like that, it can give you that immediate relief without the sugar crash later. If you habitually have dessert after dinner, right? If you're just like in the habit of I always have to have something sweet after dinner, you can create new evening rituals that satisfy that same psychological need. Maybe it's having some sort of fancy tea, or maybe it's taking a warm bath or doing something else that's pleasurable. And these aren't just random suggestions, right? It really, there's so much psychology and so much neuroscience that goes into it based on how the brain forms and breaks habits. And so you really want to work on creating those new neural pathways that are going to bypass the sugar-seeking circuits altogether. But the beauty of this approach is that it gets easier, not harder over time. Unlike traditional diets where you're fighting your cravings every single day for the rest of your life, this method actually helps to eliminate cravings at the source. According to a 2021 study in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine, after 4 weeks of consistent practice, these new habits became almost automatic, requiring far less willpower to maintain. So it doesn't even take that long. And honestly, a woman in our program described it perfectly. She said, for the first time in my life, I walked past the donuts in the break room and I didn't even want one. Not because I was forcing myself not to have it, because I genuinely didn't want it. And that's when I knew something had really changed. And that is not willpower, right? That's what freedom looks like when you just don't even want it anymore. I find myself in the grocery store all the time. I talk about this all the time, right? Like I walk down the aisles of the grocery store and I do not find the bags and boxes of cookies and crackers even remotely tempting. All I see when I look at that stuff is poison, 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 poison. My brain has changed. And so it's not even that I don't crave it. It almost repels me at this point. And the neuroscience shows us that it's absolutely possible for you too, regardless of how long you have struggled with sugar addiction. I promise. Now, let's talk about some of the obstacles to this, because I'm not going to pretend that this journey is always smooth sailing. There are definitely some obstacles that can pop up along the way when you're talking about breaking your sugar addiction once and for all. So let's talk for a couple minutes about some of the most common ones and how to handle them. Obstacle number one, I would say, is definitely the detox phase. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, pun intended, but the first 3 to 5 days after cutting sugar can be a little rough. Like it literally is a detox. So that means you're probably going to experience headaches, fatigue, irritability, intense cravings. You might get nauseous. This is your body going through withdrawal, and it's actually a really good sign that you're breaking the addiction. But the solution for this is preparation, making sure that you have, number one, a lot of snacks on hand, like protein and healthy fat snacks on hand, but also that you are staying well hydrated because your body is going to be flushing out a ton of water during this time as you're detoxing. You want to make sure that you are like, don't have a lot of stuff planned, right? Give yourself time to get lots of sleep. And then you have to remind yourself that these symptoms are temporary. They are usually worst around day 3, and then they start to improve dramatically. So it's a temporary pain for a long-term gain. And I will say this too, in our 10-day sugar detox, we give you specific strategies for every day, knowing exactly what challenges you're going to be facing and how to overcome them. And having that roadmap really, I think, is so helpful when you're going through it, to know like, okay, I'm not the only one. This is normal, because you will feel sick during this detox phase. You will feel like there is something wrong with me. This is not normal. This cannot be normal. I feel so awful. It's like I have the flu, right? Like that does happen. And so having that support to know that, okay, this is normal, can help you get through it. Obstacle number 2, I would say, is probably social situations, right? The birthday parties, the office celebrations, holidays, these can always be like major danger zones when you're trying to break free from sugar. But for me, the solution to this is to just try to have a plan before you go. Eating before you go, right? A meal that's rich in protein, rich in healthy fat, so you're not hungry. And then bringing some sort of treat to share if it's appropriate, right? You can't always bring something along, but if you can, like, I mean, we have amazing recipes on our Thinlicious site that are all sugar-free recipes, including sweet treats. And those I know are such a game changer for so many people. So decide in advance how you will respond if someone pushes food on you. And remember that it's okay to simply say no, thank you, without an explanation. You don't have to justify your decision to anyone else. The third obstacle is probably emotional eating, because like I was talking about before, many of us have so many deep-rooted emotional connections to sugar that literally go back to childhood. Maybe ice cream was your reward for good grades, or cookies were how your mom showed love. And really the solution for this is to just start becoming aware of the patterns. When a craving is hitting you, ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Because a lot of times just shining a light on the emotion takes away some of its power. A lot of times we mask our feelings with food, right? We eat our feelings. So there's a reason there's that term, eating your feelings. So sometimes you have to actually sit with the feelings and feel the feelings, instead of just trying to mask them by getting that quick hit of dopamine. And then you got to develop some alternative ways to address the emotions that don't involve food. And then the fourth obstacle I want to talk about is one that we've talked about before on this podcast, but it's so big and it comes up all the time. But it's that all or nothing mindset, right? That like, oh, I screwed up, I'm done, I might as well quit. Like, no, it's not all or nothing. It's not black or white. Progress doesn't happen all at once. It's big goals don't happen all at once. They are only the result of small steps taken consistently over time. So if you slip up and have something sweet, don't go into that like, oh, now I've blown it, so I might as well go all in, because that is basically a classic addictive thought pattern. You got to ditch the perfectionism. If you do have sugar, don't beat yourself up. Don't use it as an excuse to binge. Get right back on track with your next meal. Make the next best choice. Progress, not perfection. That is what matters. In our program, we talk about this all the time, right? That is like one of our progress, not perfection is one of our mantras. And another one is just make the next best choice, because sometimes you don't have a great choices. Sometimes you do mess up, but you always have an opportunity to get right back on track. So let's talk about the freedom. What happens when you successfully break free from sugar addiction? Well, let me paint a picture for you based not just on my experience, but on the thousands of women that I've worked with. First, your energy stabilizes in a way that you may have forgotten was actually possible. No more desperate afternoon crashes where you're reaching for caffeine or sugar just to keep your eyes open. Instead, you have consistent, steady energy from morning until bedtime. Truly, you can actually work all day and then still have energy to cook dinner at night, which is it's crazy. It's still crazy to me because I that never used to happen for me. But you're not dragging yourself through the day anymore. The next thing is that your sleep transforms completely. You start to fall asleep easily instead of tossing and turning with your mind racing. You stay asleep through the night instead of waking up at 3 a.m. And you wake up feeling genuinely refreshed and ready to start your day, not hitting snooze 5 times and still feeling groggy. Your mood evens out dramatically. Those wild swings between feeling fine 1 minute and irrationally angry or tearful the next, they go away. You're not walking around with that constant edge of irritability that makes everything feel harder than it needs to be. Your skin gets so much better. It gets clearer and brighter in a way that expensive creams will never do for you. Sugar is actually one of the biggest contributors to inflammation, which tends to show up as acne, rosacea, eczema, or just dull and tired looking skin, dark circles under your eyes. When that inflammation calms down, you have this natural glow. You will literally look years younger. Not only that, your digestion improves, often within days. The bloating that makes you look 6 months pregnant, gone. The constant gas and gurgling, no more, right? The unpredictable bathroom issues, totally regulated. Your gut microbiome begins to rebalance as you stop feeding the harmful bacteria that thrive on sugar. And that's huge. Like, it makes such a huge difference. Not only that, your brain fog lifts and your focus starts to sharpen. You can actually concentrate on tasks without your mind constantly wandering to food. You stop forgetting things, you stop feeling scattered. Your productivity starts to soar because you're not fighting your own brain chemistry all day long. This is something that we see in our program and even in our 10-day sugar detox all the time. People are like, after just a few days, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's like a fog has lifted from my brain and they can't even believe it. Like, it happens so fast. And then your cravings disappear, which is probably the most liberating change of all. Instead of feeling like you are out of control when it comes to food, food is just food again. It's not something that has control over you, not something that you're obsessed over, not something you're constantly not negotiating with yourself about. It becomes nourishment in your life, not this drug or emotional crutch. And that is where the true freedom comes in. And of course, your weight stabilizes at a level that's healthy for your body. And this is huge too. When you start to cut out sugar and you start to replace that sugar with protein and healthy fat, your insulin levels will start to normalize, your inflammation is decreasing, and your body now goes into fat burning mode rather than fat storage mode, right? Because now your insulin isn't constantly elevated, which means your body is saying it's okay. And your body wants to be at a healthy weight. So your body will finally be able to release that stored fat and find its natural set point. And this is not even about hitting some arbitrary number on the scale. It's about your body finding its own balance. And when all that happens, your confidence also source, right? Not because you look better, but because you've actually conquered something that felt impossible. There's so much empowerment that comes from breaking free of an addiction that has controlled you for so long. Your confidence spills over into every area of your life, and it's so cool. It really is. And I just think about that in my own journey. I didn't even realize how much my confidence had taken a hit when I wasn't feeling good and when I felt just overweight and sluggish and not good all the time. And I started hiding from the world, and it just completely changed. And the best part, once you have broken the addiction and healed your body, you don't have to avoid all sweet things forever. Your brain and your taste buds actually reset. A piece of fruit will taste incredibly sweet and satisfying. A small piece of chocolate will be enough in a way that a whole candy bar never was before. And that's pretty amazing too. When you create this metabolic flexibility, you heal your body and create metabolic flexibility, you actually do have the ability to handle things in moderation, and you're able to moderate. You're actually able because you're not out of control anymore. You reach a place of true choice rather than compulsion. You can enjoy a dessert on your birthday without it triggering a week-long binge. You can keep treats in your house in the house for your kids without feeling like, oh my gosh, they're calling my name day and night, right? You eat what genuinely makes your body feel good, not what your addiction demands. And isn't that what we all want? The ability to choose what we eat rather than feeling like our cravings are choosing for us. That's the freedom that awaits you on the other side of sugar addiction. And I promise you, it is closer than you think. And if you're hearing this and you're thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need, then friend, I have some exciting news for you because we are doing our 10-day sugar detox live. It is the last one before the summer, probably until the fall. And we are kicking off on April 28th. And this is your chance to get started, right? It's your chance to reset your metabolism, to take back control, break free from sugar once and for all. You'll get full support, daily coaching, community of women walking the road with you. It's so much fun. You get you get a ton of stuff when you join, right? You get detailed instructions. There's a workbook that guides you through each day of the detox. You get daily coaching where you can ask questions and get feedback in real time and connect with other people. You get access to a private community where you can connect with everyone who's in the detox and share your wins. You get science-backed education that helps you to understand exactly what's happening in your body, which is so huge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. I always say that. And then you just get the support, right? The support for the emotional aspects of breaking that sugar addiction and tools and strategies you'll be able to use for life, not just during those 10 days. And as a special bonus, just for this live challenge that we're doing on April 28th, you're also going to get a special gift, which is access to our cheat code private podcast. It's a special audio series that I recorded that goes along with the 10-day sugar detox. Normally, it's an additional $19 to get access to that. But for this challenge only, you'll get it for free. And it's really cool. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you obviously like listening to audio stuff. So you'll probably really like it. But there's just like a little message. They're pretty short. They're like 10-minute episodes that you listen to each day of the challenge. And they just keep you motivated and get you centered and help you breathe. And it just really enhances the whole experience. So you get that for free just for this challenge, but you got to get signed up. And then of course, people always ask about this too. Like, is there a meal plan? If you want more structure, there is an optional meal plan that you can add on that really takes all the guesswork out of what to eat for the 10 days. It's a really cool meal plan. It's split into like 2 5-day chunks so that you do the prep for the first 5 days and then you do the prep for the second 5 days, but it really takes all the guesswork and it's really great. It's got my bone broth recipe in there and some of my other favorite recipes. And it's super simple. It's dairy free or can be modified to be dairy free really easily. So very cool. So overall, I have really designed this challenge to be the simplest, most effective way to break free from sugar addiction once and for all. And the cool part is that you don't have to do it alone. Having that support of a community really can be the difference between success and another failed attempt. Because when you're surrounded by other people who get it, right, who are going through it and they're cheering you on and you're cheering them on, everything becomes easier. So if you are ready to join us on April 28th, just go to thinlicious.com/detox to grab your spot, or you can use the link that you will find in the show notes. Again, that's thinlicious.com/detox. And once again, we start on April 28th, and I would love, 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 love to have you join us. It's going to be so much fun. And listen, I know making a change like this can feel super scary. You might be thinking, what if I fail again, right? But the only real failure is not trying something that could change your life for the better. This challenge will change you, not just your body, but your relationship with food and your confidence in yourself, because freedom is possible. And it starts with saying yes to you. I can't wait to see you in the challenge, guys. So until next time, here is to feeling better and living free.